So you're thinking about buying your first e-bike, but you're feeling completely overwhelmed by all the choices online. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what you're looking for, so you don't waste money buying the wrong bike. Welcome to Electric Bike Support. My name is Luke, and today we're going to talk about buying your first e-bike. Quick background on me: I've been in the industry for over 6 years. I own my own e-bike store. We do sales, service, and everything in between. So I've seen and worked on hundreds of different e-bikes in the market. First thing that we're going to look for is define your purpose. What are you going to use this bike for? Is it commuting to and from work? Is it road biking? Is it mountain biking? Is it a hybrid? Define what you're going to be doing with this bike or what you foresee yourself going to do with this bike. To help you understand this a little bit better, if you're using a bike for commuting, you want to look for something more comfortable, potentially a step through, probably something that has more of a street tire because you're going to be riding it on the street. Maybe something that has a longer range since you're using it for commuting. Whereas if you're buying an e-mountain bike, you want to look for something that has more suspension, something that has a little bit more power. From there, we can look at motors. Now, there are two different types of motors on an e-bike. We have a hub motor, which looks a little something like this, and this will sit in the rear wheel most of the time. Sometimes it's in the front wheel, but it replaces the hub. It sits in the wheel of the bike. Then we have a mid-drive motor. Now this sits right next to the crank, right where your feet go. That's why it's called mid-drive. To sum that up really quickly, I have a whole nother video about hub drive and mid-drive you can watch here. That'll help you kind of dive into that a little bit more. Basically, hub drive. Hub drive is a lot simpler. A mid-drive is a little more complicated, but it has better performance. A hub drive is also a little bit cheaper, while a mid-drive is typically more expensive. Now let's talk about watts. Let's talk about power. What does that even mean? How much power do you need? So again, we're going to quickly break down the differences between the hub drive and the mid-drive. If you're going with a hub drive, a typical wattage on a hub drive is about 500 watts. This is going to be more than enough power to do pretty much any kind of riding in your area, unless you live in like San Francisco. Even then, a 500 watt will get you by. It's just going to be a little bit harder on the motor. The bigger the wattage, the more power it has, right? Now, be careful with this too, because there are restrictions. What I recommend, if you want to stay within the restrictions of e-bikes, basically staying between 250 and 1,000, you're going to be good. If you're on the lower end, if you're in a flat area, and on the higher end, if you're in a really hilly area. Again, there are some differences with the hub drive and mid drive. So again, watch this video if you want to dive more into that. A quick overview: the mid drive is typically smaller motor because there's more torque being generated from the pedal versus the hub drive is pushing you from behind, so it requires more. The way I look at it is a 500 watt motor on a hub motor equals to about a 250 watt motor on a mid drive, roughly. Obviously, there's some differences, but the Newton meters of torque output are about the same. The next question you're probably asking is battery. What is a battery? How long is it going to last me? How long do batteries last? Okay, the basic of an e-bike battery is two things. You have the voltage and you have the amperage. What you're really caring about is the amperage. How big is the battery? Is it 14 amps, 15 amps, 20 amps, 25 amps? There's a lot of factors that go into batteries and how long they'll last you, like your riding, the weight of the rider, where you're riding, how much power you're using. There's a lot that goes into it. The best way to learn about the range for your bike is to just go online, and if you like a bike, if you start narrowing one down, 90% of the time, that company is going to tell you what the range of that bike is. You just want to know how much mileage you're actually going to use. How long can your butt really stay in the seat? Most people, it's not more than like 10 miles if biking is new to you. Most batteries are removable, by the way. So pretty much with all e-bikes, you can take the battery off with a key. The key is not to start the bike, it's just to remove the battery. Next, we can start talking about quality. Now, for your first e-bike, especially if it's a commuter and a mountain bike, pretty much any e-bike, the number one thing I always recommend to my customers is hydraulic brakes. E-bikes are bigger, they're heavier, they're faster, and so in turn you have more mass, you have more speed, so you need more brakes. Everybody wants to talk about how fast you can go. Nobody talks about how fast you can stop. A typical bike, like when you were growing up, probably had mechanical brakes that has a cable. Today, you probably want to look for something that has hydraulic brakes. Again, I won't go into super big detail, but keep hydraulic brakes down in your notes as you continue to search. That's a good green flag I think all e-bikes should have. Next, let's talk about price. Now, I know in your research, I'm sure you've seen e-bikes from $500 on Amazon to $8,000 from Specialized. Again, the biggest question you're asking yourself is what kind of riding are you doing? How often? The more often, the more riding, probably the more money you should invest into the bike. Just to give you a little reference, in our store, most of our bikes that we sell are commuter bikes for someone who just wants to cruise around the neighborhood, maybe go down to the bar and back, just something to go have fun on and not have to work a ton. For that kind of bike, you should expect to spend about $1,500 to $2,500 for a decent bike that's going to last you a long time. That also has warranty, service, and support. We'll get into that in a second. I don't carry anything under $1,200 in my store, flat. I just don't. Because once you start getting to that $1,000 range, all it's becoming is that manufacturer, whoever the hell you're buying it from on Amazon, is just throwing together the cheapest stuff they can in order to make a profit. I call them disposable bikes because usually they don't last more than 6 months. Sometimes there's outliers. People have $800 bike. Great, good for you. For me, I'm gonna invest the money. I'm gonna get something nice. It's gonna last me that I really enjoy, and that's not gonna. I'm not gonna have to spend a ton of money on servicing. A lot of people ask about maintenance. Maintenance an e-bike is not that much crazier. I also have another video about that too, so you can check that out here. There's also the difference between cadence sensing and torque sensing. How the bike actually reads your pedaling is very important because it's going to determine how it's going to give you assist. So, a quick recap, think about what kind of bike that you want. What are you going to be using the bike for? Then you can understand what style of bike you're going to be looking for. Then you can understand what kind of range and power you can be looking for. Lastly, where are you buying the bike from? If you're buying the $500 Amazon bike and that's all you can afford, great. Um, we still want you to get on that e-bike and go. What I highly, highly, highly recommend is find the company that sells that bike and call their number, call their service line, see what kind of support they actually give you. This goes for all brands too. What kind of warranty are they offering? What kind of support and service are you going to get? The biggest problem I have in my e-bike store is people come in with bikes that they bought online. They want them fixed. Things have gone wrong, and I can't do anything because the company's gone out of business. They don't respond. They don't speak English. Whatever it is, now they have a $1,200 paperweight. So go to a local bike shop. Go to your local bike shop. Stop looking online. Talk to somebody. They're obviously going to try to sell you what they have on the floor, but at least you can ride the e-bike, you can test it out, really feel the difference because there's a lot more that goes into it. We covered a very surface level today. Girl, I know there's a lot to consider today, but this will help you narrow down your decision of purchasing your first e-bike. If you want to learn more about e-bikes, this is the place. There's also an email in the description. You can reach out personally if you have any other questions. Check out some of our other videos, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.